Today I'm going to show you why AI exposes every weakness in your business. So I've deployed AI into 367 businesses, I've built 6 companies, and I've exited 4 of them, including an AI company that we sold last year for $8 million. And I can tell you exactly which one of these 5 problems is costing you the most money right now. And for most of you, it's somewhere between $200K and $500K a year, and you have no idea that it's happening. So I'm gonna show you how to find it in the next 5 minutes, but here's the one I want you to stick around for. The 5th one almost killed my company before we sold it, and I had to tear the whole thing down and rebuild it from scratch. But don't worry, that story is coming. So here's how this is gonna work. I'm gonna walk you through each of these 5 problems one at a time. And for each one, I'll show you what it looks like, why it matters, and how to fix it. Because AI doesn't break your business, it actually shows you where your business was already broken, and these 5 problems are what it finds every single time, so let's get into it. Here's the first one, and this is the one that's probably costing you the most money right now, because most founders think they have a lead generation problem when they don't. They've got what I call a revenue capture problem, and they don't see it because they're too busy chasing more leads. Let me show you what I mean. So Mike runs a $4.5 million home services company. He's got 30 employees, he's got a solid market reputation, but his growth had flatlined for about a year. So he called me wanting to come put some AI in his pipeline so he could get more leads, more appointments, and more top of funnel. And that's funny because that's what every founder says when growth stalls: more. But here's what he didn't see. We did an audit, and what we found actually shocked him. 30% of his inbound leads never got a follow-up. Not a single call, not a follow-up text, not even an email, nothing. 30% of the people who raised their hand and said, "I'm interested in working with you," just fell into a black hole. So we did the math, and that's roughly $360,000 a year in potential revenue. Gone, not because the leads weren't there, because literally nobody followed up. So he didn't have a demand problem, he had a capture problem. And he was about to spend tens of thousands of dollars on lead generation to solve a problem that literally wasn't a problem that existed in his business. So instead of building an AI system to generate more leads, we built a system that called every lead within 5 minutes of them reaching out. It resold the value of the service, got a verbal confirmation, and then routed them straight to a scheduling. So let's fast forward 30 days. He closed $70K in revenue that literally would have disappeared. He had the same leads, he had the same offer, he just stopped the bleeding. And here's the decision you need to make right now, okay? Before we spend $1 on generating more business, you need to audit what's already happening and where you're already losing, because most companies are pouring water into a bucket with holes in it and they're wondering why it won't fill up. That's not a marketing problem, that's a systems problem. And AI is great at plugging those leaks, but only if you know where they are first. And I use a simple tool called the constraint test, and I made a video about how to use it. The link's in the description. So let's go audit your leaks and use AI to plug them. That's how you move forward. Which brings us to problem number 2. Now the first problem costs you money, this next one costs you time, and for most of you, that's more expensive because 90% of the time the bottleneck in your business is you, and you've convinced yourself that it's quality control. And so you review everything before it ships, your team waits on you, growth is capped based on your personal capacity, and you think you're the floor when you're actually the ceiling. And this is the cage that you built, and you don't even see it anymore. And I would know because I learned this the hard way at Daily AI, the last company that we sold, because in the early days, I reviewed every single customer deliverable before it went out. Everyone. And I told myself that I was maintaining quality and keeping standards high. But really, I was just making sure nothing left the building that wasn't up to par, or at least that's what I thought. But here's what was really happening, because my team was waiting on me, okay? Every deliverable sat in a queue until I got to it, and growth was capped at my personal capacity. I was the ceiling and I thought I was the floor. Now, I thought I was the quality control, but actually I was what I call the quality cage. And the moment of truth came when I tried to train an AI to do a review of my process, okay? So I sat down and I tried to write out my standards, but I couldn't do it because every single process was different. Every piece was different. And I'd been running on instinct for the first year of the business. Gut feel, pattern recognition, all that stuff lived in my head. It didn't live anywhere else. And that's when it hit me. If I can't teach AI my standards, I can't teach my team either. And I wasn't maintaining quality, I was literally hoarding it. So I fixed it in 3 steps. Step 1, I started recording my review process on Loom. Every time I reviewed something, I narrated my thought process out loud and why I changed this or why I flagged that or what I was looking for and why. Step 2 is I fed those transcripts into AI and had it find the patterns, the unspoken rules, the invisible standards that I've been carrying around in my head for years. So that takes us to step 3. I used AI to then turn those patterns into a clear set of rules and criteria. And this was a decision-making guide that my team and I could follow without me in the room. And that's key. Within a month, my team was making decisions at 90% of my quality level without me touching anything. And that 10% gap, most of it didn't matter, okay? I'd been over polishing things that were already good enough and already getting the result. So here's the decision you need to make is, can your team do their best work if you disappear for 2 weeks? If the answer is no, you have a problem and you need to fix it. You either extract what's in your head and give it to them, or you stay the bottleneck in the business forever. And there's no third option, so just go ahead and pick one. Because if your team can't move without your approval, that's not high standards, that's a bottleneck, that's a constraint, and it's costing you your time and it's costing you your money. Problem number 3. Now this one hits different because I've lived it and it actually cost me almost everything. So early in daily AI, I thought I was building a scalable company, but again, I wasn't. I was building a job that got harder as I grew. And here's what I didn't see is every new sign up meant a new team member. Okay, so our delivery model was so hands-on that revenue and headcount literally moved in lockstep in the early days. So we had more customers, we need more people. More people means more management means more overhead, and the margins just kept getting thinner and we kept running out of money. So I was trading time for money, and time is the one thing that I can't scale in the business. So I tried to fix it with AI. I threw tools at the problem, I threw engineers at the problem, we automated pieces here and we automated pieces there, but it was like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg, okay? These tools weren't the issue, the model was the issue, because you can't automate your way out of a bad business model. More clients would always mean more people would always mean lower margin, and AI can't fix that math. In fact, no tool could, because the problem wasn't the tools, the problem was the structure. So I had to stop and rebuild the entire product around leverage. So we redesigned how we delivered, we standardized our service, we said no to custom requests that felt like revenue, but were really just anchors holding us back, and we rebuilt the model up, not the tools down. And that's what made the exit possible. Not the AI, not the automation, it was the business model redesign. The AI just made the whole new model faster. So here's the question you need to answer right now. If your revenue and your headcount are moving in the same direction at the same rate, you don't have a scaling business, you have an expensive job, and no amount of AI is gonna change that equation. Because the fix is not a fancy AI tool, the fix is looking at your model and asking one hard question. Can this business serve twice as many clients without twice as many people? If the answer is no, you've got a model problem, and that needs to be solved before any technology touches it. That's the decision. Fix the model, or you can stay stuck. That brings us to number 4. This one is so simple, it's almost embarrassing, but I see it in over half the businesses that I work with. You can't automate what you can't explain, and most founders can't explain their own business. Let me show you what I mean. So let's take Sarah. She was running a $3.5 million staffing firm. She had 12 employees. She was working 70-hour weeks and had been for 2 years straight. She came to me and she wanted AI to automate client onboarding so that she could focus on sales. So I asked her a simple question. What's your onboarding process? Her answer was, it depends. Now that told me everything I needed to know because she didn't have a process, okay? Every client was custom and every deliverable was improvised, and she'd been running this company for 5 years, and because she was good at it, she'd never written anything down. I mean, why would she? She just knew. But that knowledge was a cage. It's what was keeping her trapped at 70 hours a week. And her team couldn't take over because there was nothing consistent to take over. They weren't failing, they just never given them anything repeatable to succeed with. And here's the thing, AI can't automate, it depends, and neither can people. So before she touched any tool, she spent 2 weeks documenting her top 5 workflows, not perfectly, just consistently. And here's what happens when a new client comes in. Here's step 1, here's step 2, here's what a good outcome looks like, here's what a bad outcome looks like, and here's what to do about it. 2 weeks, that's it. Progress over perfection. And once those processes actually existed on paper, everything changed because her team could execute without her, and AI could start handling the repetitive parts because there were now actual repeatable parts to handle. So if you're working 60 or 70 hours a week and you feel like nobody can do the things the way that you do them, you need to hear this, because the problem isn't your team. The problem is you've never written down the way that you actually do it or what that means. So you have a choice. Document first, automate second. always in that order, or you're gonna stay at 70 hours a week forever. And that's the decision you need to make. Problem 5, this is the last one, and this is the one that blindsided me the most when I started seeing it across companies. Because what happens when you give AI tools to a team of human order takers? Nothing, because order takers don't know what to do with AI. AI requires thinking, and order takers were hired to follow scripts, not to think. And this is exactly what happened to my boy Marcus. Marcus runs a $5 million digital marketing agency. He's got 20 employees, and he wanted AI to speed up his campaign builds, his reporting, so that he could get that part of his bottleneck in the business unstuck. So he bought all the tools, he set up all the accounts, and he trained every single team member on every single feature. And of course, 6 weeks later, nobody was using any of it. Why? Because these tools weren't the problem. Marcus had spent 5 years hiring people to follow checklists, okay? Do task A, then task B, then task C. Don't forget to breathe, don't think, just execute. And it worked for a while, right? A lot of us have been in that place. But when he handed those same people an AI tool and said, figure out how to make your work better, they froze because they didn't know how to figure things out. They'd never been asked to. And again, he didn't have a tool problem. He had a team problem, and the people he built his company around couldn't think critically enough to use AI as a partner. And here's the thing about AI. It amplifies thinking. So if there's no real thinking happening, there's nothing to amplify. So he had to retrain his team to think before AI became useful. And in some cases, he had to make the hard decision about whether certain people could make that shift at all, meaning he had to let people go who weren't adopting AI. And here's the hard truth. You need to do the same thing, because if your team is not adopting AI and embracing it with a growth mindset, you literally need a new team. Now, I know that's harsh, but here's the thing. You can train growth-minded people on tools, but it doesn't work the other way around, okay? You can't train someone to think if they were hired not to. So make a decision, invest in retraining people who can think, or move on from people who won't, but you can't do both and you can't stay where you are. So there it is, 5 problems AI will find in your business, whether you're ready for it or not. Your revenue leaks, your bottleneck as the founder, your business model math, your undocumented process, and your team's ability to think, not just execute. Because look, AI doesn't break your business, it shows you where it was already broken. Fix the 5 foundations, then deploy your AI tools to get to the next level. So if you saw yourself in any of these 5, you already know what the problem is. The question is whether you're gonna fix it alone or with a room full of other operators just like you who are solving the same thing. That's Prime Elite. We're not a course. We're a room full of founders doing 2 million to 25 million a year who are building AI systems together. We meet live, we show our work, and we solve real problems. So if you want to stop studying AI and actually start deploying it, there's a link in the description, and we'll see if we're a fit. And of course, if you have questions about this stuff, drop them in the comments and I will personally respond to each one. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next video.